Make a save anytime you're about to approach a point of interest, NPC, or object. A lot of times you might make a mistake and fail the quest or part of the quest. Other times you might die and respawn very far away. Pay attention to NPC dialogues. If you approach too quickly, the NPCs will stop their dialogue sequence and notice you. Here, for example, I snuck up and heard that this guy was going to shoot the moment he heard a sound. And worst comes to worst, he's gonna pull the pin, which I'm assuming was a grenade. So I peeked the door and shot him instantly. Make sure to explore and loot buildings you come across. That'll be the difference between having only 2 to 3 medkits versus 20 to 30 medkits. A lot of time, the game puts you in situations where right after a dialogue sequence, you have to engage an enemy. Unfortunately, the NPCs always shoot as soon as the dialogue ends, whereas we end up with just our hands. By the time you pull out the gun, you're already down to like 25% HP. In these situations, you're better off just running to cover, healing up, and then engaging. There's a lot of traveling, walking, and running in the game. Fast travel is a thing, but it's quite limited. You can only fast travel from a settlement to another previously visited settlement using the guides. Guides are marked by this icon on the map. Sometimes you have to progress the story to a certain point before the guides actually give you the option to fast travel. Here, for instance, I was not able to use the guide until I progressed most of the story, which is why inventory and weight management is very important. Most times, the story will flow in a way where going to your stash will be counterproductive, and if you loot too much, you'll be weighed down. If the weight icon pops up, it will have a significant negative impact on your stamina, both recovery and consumption. Guns and armors usually weigh the most, and if you're looting a bunch of ammo, then that's gonna add up over time. Energy drinks are amazing. Stamina is consumed outside of combat, so anytime you're going from one spot to the next, you will constantly be running out of stamina unless you decide to bot walk. I personally prefer energy drinks over water because water bottles weigh way too much. Make sure you're also not carrying like 50 plus medkits and bandages. Usually 20-ish medkits and 15 bandages are plenty because you end up finding a lot of them throughout the missions. Anytime you visit a settlement, make sure you stock up on supplies, mainly medkits, bandages, and energy drinks, because the vendors have like a set period before their inventory refreshes. Another thing that affects your stamina is hunger. There are 2 stages. One is when the hunger icon is transparent, and the other when it's solid. Transparent means that you're slightly hungry, and solid means you're really hungry. Eating things like bread, sausage, and canned foods can alleviate the hunger status effect. If you tried sleeping and it said that you had a negative status ailment, it was probably hunger. Sometimes when you upgrade weapons, their ammo type also changes. For example, I upgraded my shotgun to the max, and unfortunately, even though it says it takes 1270 ammo, it does not. When you go into your circle menu or you have the gun pulled out, you can press the N key, which is the default key on PC, to switch between ammo types. Some ammo types give you armor penetration. The B key by default on PC is to change the fire rate. You can switch between automatic, burst fire, and single fire depending on the weapon. Usually for scoped guns, you're better off using single fire. I like to always carry a shotgun, some kind of scoped rifle, and a silenced pistol. Shotguns are great for any of the fleshy mutants, and the pistols and rifles are great for humans. With humans, you want to prioritize headshots as much as possible. Unless they have a helmet on, even then the headshots usually like 1 to 2 tap them. I've noticed at times if you shoot humans in the body, they can sometimes like get back up. I don't know if it's a bugged out animation, but I've noticed it most commonly with zombies. They tend to get back up unless you shoot their heads. For the fleshy mutants and the boars, you're better off not fighting them because they don't drop anything. They're basically bullet sponges intended to drain your ammunition. If, however, there is an anomaly nearby, which oftentimes there is, if you put the anomaly between you and them, they instantly die. Be careful of traps. Places will sometimes be booby-trapped with wires. I think they come in 2 flavors only, shotgun traps and grenades. The grenades usually have a short delay before they explode, whereas the shotguns go off instantly. You can walk up to the wire and disarm them, or you can throw your bolt to trigger them. I believe the shotguns are always 100% durability when you loot them. A lot of times enemies are spawned in once you trigger a story event. Here for example, there were no enemies, but once I progressed the story, a bunch of them spawned in. When you're doing a quest, there are usually multiple ways to approach it. For example, with the Poppy Field quest, you could just go in and find the hidden room by yourself, or you could go and talk to this NPC, which gives you a side quest, which upon completing that, it ends up marking the exact location of the hidden room. Afterwards, that NPC offers you a reward if you give him the item instead of the original quest owner. Here, I gave him the item, got the reward, and killed him afterwards to take back the item so that I could turn it into the original quest owner. But the original quest owner only gave me 1,000 coupons for it. However, the item itself was worth like 5,000 coupons, so it might have been better to just sell it to the vendor instead. There are two types of beeping. One will trigger automatically if you're close to an anomaly, and the other is with the scanner gadget. The scanner beeps if there's an artifact nearby, and the artifacts are usually near anomalies. So if you hear beeping, it's probably a good idea to pull out the scanner because oftentimes it will lead you to an artifact. Artifacts that weaken radiation are not that great because they will increase your radiation sensitivity and you will oftentimes take chip damage in areas that you normally would not. There are some invisible enemies. I believe the way to kill them is by shooting the orb itself. I've seen two flavors so far. Like, one is a transparent version and then there's a fire version. They usually hurl objects at you to damage you, and I think the best approach is to just rush them with a shotgun. I haven't killed the transparent one, but you can definitely kill the fire ones. And for the transparent ones, shooting them with a shotgun ended up stunning them. I'm pretty sure you can kill the transparent ones too just by shooting the orb, but I haven't done it myself, so I can't be 100% sure. Enemies seem to detect you from like miles away and they'll beam you down even though like you can barely see them. If your HUD is red, it means you're still in combat. The HUD will also mark enemies with a red icon. And if the HUD is blue or orange, it means that you're in the right area for a quest. You just have to like look around for the actual objective. I think having the flashlight turned on also makes it easier for enemies to detect you. You can loot ammo from guns by holding the interact button or by right-clicking in the inventory to empty them. Another way to increase radiation resistance is by upgrading armor. This can help balance the negative radiation status from some artifacts. These three triangles on the map, they represent stashes, and I believe they get revealed whenever you pick up a PDA. Repair your weapons often to avoid a hefty repair bill. Alternatively, just cycle through weapons depending on what you find. Keep in mind though, the more wear and tear a weapon has, the higher the chance of it locking up. If the weapon does lock up, you press the reload key to fix it. If you end up in a situation where you have to fight one of these mutants, you can tackle it in one of two ways. The most common option would be to lead it through a choke point, like a doorway. That way they only have one way to approach you. And as soon as you see the invisible outline, you just unload all your bullets. The other way would be to find their boundary. They have like a set boundary that they can't go past. Here, for example, these guys could not go past this area, which probably might be due to the acid. And I was able to use this to bait them over and over and then eventually take them down. I also think headshots do in fact work on them because this guy right here, he died to 5 shotgun headshots, whereas the other ones, they took a ton of bullets. That being said, I was only able to easily land the headshots because he kind of bugged out. Another thing you can do is if you see an object that you can like jump on top of, like a table or a car or something out in the open or inside, it can mess up their AI and then that gives you a pretty big advantage. This is like a general tip. It's something that I've noticed is once you get detected, regardless of where you are, even if you're like behind walls or you're crouching and moving around, the enemy will somehow just know exactly where you're at. And anytime you're about to engage with somebody, always try to have cover. Even if you're head glitching, they're gonna beam you down. They have insane aim and they detect you from like way far away. And then try not to stay in one area for too long. Even if you have cover, there's a good chance that they're gonna just start lobbing grenades at you.
Was a pretty shitty ride, but we had a hell of a time.